very interesting angle there on the elections that are coming up in Zimbabwe. This weekend, the Bangladesh Supreme Court will rule on a High Court decision to clear former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina of corruption charges and may free her from detention too. 9 months ago, as you may recall, Sheikh Hasina sat on this very sofa as she contemplated her return home from London. She'd been expelled by the interim administration in Dhaka, which is preparing Bangladesh for, quote, free and fair, unquote, elections at the end of this year. Shortly after leaving this studio, she flew back to Bangladesh. Weeks later, she was arrested on charges of corruption, and she hasn't been freed since. Her nephew, Radwan Sadiq, is with me right now, and it's a tense time, this, Radwan, isn't it? Because the High Court have made a decision that you must be pleased about, but the Supreme Court could spoil it all, couldn't it?
Yes, the High Court verdict was welcomed by everyone in Bangladesh because it vindicated what we've been saying, that Sheikh Hasina's trial should be tried under the normal laws. I mean, as you mentioned, she was here, the government tried to exile her, but she actually fought very hard to fly back to Bangladesh and face these charges in an open court under the laws of the land. But what the government did was they tried her cases under the emergency power rules. And one of the key elements of that was denying her bail. And so now that this has been overruled, we're hopeful that hopefully the Supreme Court will uphold it and show the courage to do the right thing at a very critical moment in Bangladeshi politics.
Because if they release her, effectively in their judgment, she would become a political force again immediately, wouldn't she?
Yes, she would. I mean, as you probably remember, when the government did try and exile her, it caused uproar in Bangladesh and abroad. When she went back, there were thousands of people to greet her on her return, and she remains by far the most popular politician in Bangladesh. And the government should not fear the fact that if she comes out, she will be a political force. She's always been a political force. But if they're serious about returning the country to democracy, they have to let the popular leaders contest in the elections. They can't use emergency power rules, the state of emergency, to detain someone like Sheikh Hasina and on the one hand speak about their commitment to democracy. You know, it just doesn't tie up.
And in fact, she's been treated well in as far as you can work out, or are you all allowed to visit? Or?
Well, we haven't been in touch with her directly since she was arrested. I actually spoke to her the night of her arrest literally while she was being taken away, and she said, you know, don't worry about me, I'll be fine, stay strong. And since then, she's only been allowed one phone call to her children who live in America. She's allowed sporadic visits, and we hear what we can from her lawyers. We've written her a few letters, but we heard that she hasn't received them. She sent us messages saying that she sent us letters, but we haven't received them. And she's kept in this special jail, which is basically being kept in solitary confinement. And her health is not so well at the moment. So a combination of these factors, I think they are taking their toll on her, but her spirit is still very strong.
What would happen if the Supreme Court said that they would order her release or sanction her release, provided she agreed to leave the country, for instance? What would she say to that?
I mean, an offer like that was pretty much on the table when they tried to exile her, and she refused, because her point is, and you spoke to her about this as well, that she's been fighting for democracy in Bangladesh for a very, very long time. She's dedicated her life to it, and she just doesn't see any reason why she would have to make any deal which would make her leave the country. She loves the country, she loves the people, she loves her party, and I don't think she would ever agree to that. And part of that is because she's confident that any of the charges against her, none of them will stick if they're taken through the courts in the normal process under the laws of the land.
And her big rival over the years is also in detention at the moment.
Yes, that's right.
Khalida Zia, yes?
Yes, none of her cases have been brought to the courts yet, but it's the same. It doesn't matter if it's Sheikh Hasina, Khalida Zia, or any other politician. All the trials should be conducted in an open manner under the laws of the land.
Do you think that the election, free and fair election, will go ahead?
I think there's severe doubts over the possibility of a free and fair election, and in fact about an election at all. I mean, recently the Election Commission said that we will not be able to give a date for the elections till September. Now that would have been after a year and 9 months of being charged. So there are doubts cast over it. Also the attempt to try and, I mean, the primary reason for trying to get a conviction is under emergency power rules. If you have a conviction, you can't stand for election. Whereas under normal rules, you go through the whole judicial process up to the Supreme Court. But under the emergency power rules, you can get a conviction in any court, and that's it. You can't go to elections. So if they're trying to manipulate who can and who cannot participate in the elections using these rules, then, you know, it casts a serious doubt over their sincerity in holding free and fair elections.
Because, I mean, having talked to her here and you having talked to her just before she went to prison and so on, I mean, I would have said that she would want to get back into politics, wouldn't you, when she comes out?
Well, her support in the party is stronger than ever. The party still want her to lead them. In terms of her personal decision, like I said, we haven't really been in touch with her.
Yeah.
And once she comes out, she would have to assess what she feels is the best for the country and for the party, and I think she'll take a decision based upon that.
Well, the first day of decision, as it were, comes this weekend, and it's good to talk to you on the eve of that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. In a minute, I'll be talking to the world's most famous conductor and pianist, Daniel Barenboim. He's terrific. That's after the news, which is next.